You're listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Childers. Before we get started, if you've had an encounter or an experience or just something unexplained, click on the link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. On this episode of the Cryptid Crew Podcast, I would like to introduce founder of the Ohio Night Stalkers, speaker, and Bigfoot researcher, my friend Mike Miller. Mike, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me and everything. Co-founder, but thank you.
Gotcha. Let me correct that. Co-founder then. Mike, if you want to just kind of dive into this and what got you interested in the world of Bigfoot?
Well, growing up, I watched any show, and back then there wasn't a lot of them. So if a Bigfoot or a show on Loch Ness or UFOs came on, it was like, yeah, I got to watch that. And I watched all that. And I never thought anything like that could be in Ohio. I didn't think Ohio would be wooded enough or something like that. But I don't know, about 18, 19, 20 years ago, on my local news, Channel 7 out of Dayton, Ohio, they did a story about a sighting in Ohio. And I was watching the news and I fell out of the chair. And I just thought that was the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. But it kind of ignited my interest. So I got online and I typed in 2 words, Ohio, Bigfoot. And different things popped up. But I stumbled into the BFRO website and I clicked on that. Then I clicked on, there's a map of the United States. So I clicked on Ohio and I expected to see 1 or 2 reports. And man, this thing dropped down. It had reports by county. And I just started clicking on the counties that I knew and reading, and I was blown away. As a driver for UPS, I knew where some of these places, I kind of knew where they were talking, which kind of made it more exciting. And I just was reading the stories, and a lot of them I thought, you're freaking an idiot. You're probably afraid of your own shadow. That was probably a deer, or you had too much to drink. On most of them. But a couple of the things kind of struck me, kind of stood out. There was a guy in eastern Ohio. That's where we happen to research most of the time at now. He didn't know what was in his backyard, but he had a 5-year-old male German Shepherd. And I grew up with a German Shepherd and, growing up. And he said his dog, the inside door was open, outside door was all glass, was closed. The dog came through the glass to get back in the house, ran to the furthest point away in the house, curled up and peed itself. And those dogs don't do that. So that got my attention. And he wasn't even claiming it was Bigfoot. He said he didn't know what it was. But, he called the police. Then there was a lady who had her kids, and they were walking along the river. This is kind of north of Tip City. And something started whistling. The kids whistled back. And what unnerved the mom, she taught music. And she said the whistles went so high up in octave, she said a person could not do that, And she knows music, she knows octaves, and her little boy kind of drugged behind, the group and seen this thing, and it freaked him out and he had to have therapy, and she called the police. And I kind of had a tough time with that one because that's right up by past Vandalia where the airport is. And I thought, no freaking way, but I was playing a lot of softball then. I was a lot younger, and guy on the team, his brother was a Troy cop. I said, hey, I'm not trying to contact this lady. I talked to him about it. And I said, but can you find out if this is an internet story or this has really happened? And a few weeks later, he came to me and goes, hey, my brother said that happened. They actually sent cops to the freaking location. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to go check this out. I was married at the time. I took her cousin. I think he was 19 at the time. And I thought, I'm going to go to a site where there was a Bigfoot report, just to say I did. Was kind of my thought process. And took a copy, printed the report out off BFRO, walked down in there, tried to match it up the best I could. And I seen some weird stuff. I seen, some tree breaks and stuff. I know what it is now. Back then, I had no clue. It just didn't make any sense and was kind of odd. And it was woollier back in there than I thought. I thought maybe something could, meander along the river here and stay out of sight. But what struck me from all that, because we went in the daytimes, that uneasy feeling of being watched and that something just wasn't right and the hair standing up on the back of your neck. The cat is going to come in here in a second. He likes to steal the show. I'm sorry.
No problem whatsoever. We have a couple of those here at our house as well.
That's Luna. He's a big ham. Always be everywhere. But that won't be his only appearance probably. But sit down. And I'm sorry. But
You're good, Mike.
But anyway, it just creeped me out, and I don't know. I don't think that was just my fear or whatever, because you just kind of know when something isn't right. And but what it did is it ignited that curiosity even more. He thinks I'm a cat because my chin hair here. So, okay, you got to get down for a little bit, okay? Get down. But that's Luna, everybody. So I started looking up things, and I found a guy named Dan outside of Springfield. Dan Mosier had pictures. A lot of it was from Buck Creek area. A lot of them were blurry, and I seen other stuff online. A lot of it was blurry. Read the stories, and I couldn't wrap my head around, anything in Ohio. And but he hooked me up with George Taylor, who was originally from Minnesota, and at that time George lived around here, and he took me to places like Charleston Falls in Miami County, which is over by where that one report was, basically. And we walked the park on the trail. Nothing happened. He took me off the trail, which you're not supposed to go. And don't do that, kids. Read the signs, obey them. But when you go off the trail, you see the markers, the structures. There's a tree there that's a good 2 foot in diameter that had the limbs removed, bent, and driven into the ground like the St. Louis Arch. And I didn't know what that meant, but that was not natural. And I walked over there, there was nothing laying on it. It didn't grow that way. That thing was bent. And then I seen an area where this real heavy canopied area, and something had walked through there. I mean, and the difference between, you see a game trail, you see a deer trail, because the way the vegetation's kind of parted, and you can see something moves through there quite freely, all the time, because it leaves, it leaves evidence.
Sure.
And sorry, I'm searching for the right word, but I'm having trouble. Turkey hangover, I guess. Something went through there a hell of a lot bigger than a deer, because the stuff that was pushed out of the way was just way bigger. And the killer for me was these trees, probably 2-3 inches in diameter, were snapped at about maybe 6.5 foot height and laid in the same direction. Like something just walked through there and did that for the hell of it. And these weren't old breaks. These were new breaks, because the wood that was exposed was a clear, bright, vibrant color. And they were twist snapped. It wasn't just a break like something did this until it snapped. There was evidence of twisting. And, I try to do that with smaller limbs, and I couldn't do that. And the rest, and it's not a storm. I know skeptics going to say a storm, but all this canopy up here would have been tore out. Wind's not going to come in and take these trees out and snap them and not tear these weaker limbs out and leaves. All that was untouched. But what was happening is and I didn't expect this. I thought I would kind of stick my head in the door in the Bigfoot world, especially in Ohio, and I wouldn't find anything, and I would just go on with my merry life there, and that's not what happened. I stuck my head in the door, and I got pulled in. And the more I looked, the more I found, and I did not expect that.
Mike, let me ask you this, and it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. There's all kinds of evidence. You have to sift through things that you see online and reports you hear and so forth. But going back to the stick structures, of course, in your opinion, it's not snowfall or storm, right?
No.
That caused it. Okay. What do you think these stick structures are? Are they markers for something or what?
They do serve a purpose. I'm not sure what. George took me and showed me the difference between storm damage and unnatural damage. And what I've noticed over the years is some of these kind of the teepee looking structures that they're not enough for something to take shelter under, because I look at them, I'm like, did they start building it, then abandon it? Is it a little one practicing? But what if, I'm just my theory guessing here, but I've noticed a lot of these are on or right off of game trails. I believe those are their version of a deer blind. I think they hide in there and it's just enough to hide them. And, because the way a deer perceives its environment, and it's just enough to break up that pattern, and it's an ambush point. That's just my belief.
Sure.
But I have seen them big enough to sleep under. Not too many times, right. One time actually, but and that's different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there. I believe it very well could be some type of blind, that you would use hunting or so forth. And Luna's making the appearance again. That's awesome.
He's still on the show is what he's doing.
Yes, he is. But yeah, I believe it's some type of marker. Maybe, like you said, they seem to be found, or typically, I guess, around game trails.
I think that, they could chase if they're hunting in a group. It could be some kind of marker, the direction they want to chase something, due to drop offs, or maybe the woods gets really thick in a certain area and it would be hard for even a deer to maneuver. There's something to it. Maybe some of them mark water. Maybe some of them kind of mark an area where, hey, don't go this way. There's people down this way. I don't know, but there's some kind of a reason for it.
I believe you're right on that as well. And going back to, I guess, when you first got into the subject, on the BFRO website, I think Ohio is in the top 5 in the country for reported sightings. And it's just, that amazes me.
Well, the reason for that is, and I'm not knocking Ohio, I live here, but a lot of that is due to the sections of woods we have are broken up by towns, cornfields, roads. People that research this can get into these areas as Smoky Mountains, Pacific Northwest. If you've been to the Pacific Northwest, you're talking about tracts of land that extend for hundreds of miles, where you're only going to go so far in a vehicle, and then you're going to have, some kind of equipment or a horse, and in Pacific Northwest, they can kind of keep moving away from you and just disappear. They really can't do that in Ohio. And if you get a topographical map and you kind of figure out where the waterways are, and kind of we look at it as the woolier and crazy of an area for us to get in, if it's tougher for us, we're more than likely possibly going to be there because they're trying to keep that buffer zone. And that's kind of what we use as our template. But Ohio is they're more accessible. That's why they're seen more. I don't think there's more Bigfoot here than Pacific Northwest. It's just, it's got a better insight to it.
I believe so. Population of people, and I guess more of an opportunity for someone to see one, as well. So, Mike, let me ask you this. And you had probably, I guess, one of the most intense episodes on the Travel Channel's These Woods Are Haunted. It's for the listeners, if you've never seen it. It's season 1, episode 6. Is that correct?
Well, see, I think it is episode 6 on These Woods Are Haunted. It's the same show, but it's also titled Terror in the Woods, and it's episode 3 on Terror in the Woods. It's the same show, but 2 different networks. Yeah.
Tell the listeners, for the ones who have not seen that, what led up to that day, and what got you in the woods researching?
We had started researching. George only went out during the daytime, and then I'm trying to, this took time, and this, trial and error, and running into the right people. But eventually ran into someone local named Mark Mills, and went and met him because at least he was in Ohio. A lot of the people I was talking to were out of state, and they kind of invited me to go out with them. And I went on my first night hike. That was at East Fork, but that's how I met Mike Feltner, who was the other co-founder. He's since, retired from Bigfooting, believe it or not. But I started going with them, and we went at night. Our MO was go out at nighttime because we kind of figured there'd be more activity. Daytime you could be spotted easier, and there wasn't a lot of people out at night. But we went. Mark has some land down in Adams County and in a prime area, and we kind of were hitting there, and then kind of started offshooting into other locations. Trouble is, a lot of these roads aren't marked, so I had to get a map to kind of figure out where we were. But long story short, how people in groups kind of don't get along sometime or have different opinions. Just kind of some things happen, and Mike and I kind of went our own direction. And so we started kind of going more. Mark had some family stuff going on. He couldn't really go a lot. But anyway, we started going out in the daytime in Adams County in some areas, looking to see what the terrain looked like and what we were getting into. Because I want to see where I'm going at night. I want to see what it looks like during the day. I don't want to get shot. I just want to, I always turn the vehicle around. I've watched too many horror movies where they try to get the hell out of Dodge and someone, they drive into a tree or they drive into a hole or they get stuck on a rock. No, my vehicle's pointing out. I'm ready to go. Keys are in it. I can get out of there, if I have to. But that sounds crazy or funny, but true.
Yes.
But I noticed this road like dead ended into a cemetery. So we went back in there during the daytime and checked this area out. Or anyone lives back in there, this road is probably 5 miles long, very windy, very, very hilly. Got to have a 4-wheel drive. I mean, it's not the road. I call it that loosely. It's not really a road. It dead ends into this graveyard. And I'm like, this place is creepy during the day. Heck yeah, we're coming back here at night. That was October 11th, 2014. We went into the town of West Union to wait out the rain. It finally stopped raining and we ventured out about, by the time we got out there, it's probably 10:30 at night. Now the TV show shows us there during the day when it started. That was our recon thing. They just kind of, TV shows, they just kind of clump things together. They took a few other liberties. They showed Mike having a really bad anxiety attack. That didn't happen. We all had anxiety and we were all scared to death at different moments, but not like that. And I never fired a warning shot, but they added that for suspense, of course. Sure. But we went out there that night and had a lot of stuff happen. I'm kind of guessing it's because no one had ever been in that area and stirred them up, and it was just crazy. And we didn't realize this. They followed us as we went ahead, and they followed us coming out.
So did you hear? Let me ask you this: I know in the show it had you guys using some type of sound system to vocalize recordings, or an Ohio howl, I guess, possibly. Is that correct?
No, during the daytime, Mike did a few howls to see how they would reverberate off the hillsides and the bridges and stuff. So basically, we would set up and we stayed in the dark, and they had us with flashlights and all that. No, we sat there in the dark and we would do some wood knocks. Mike would do a howl, and we would just kind of sit and see what would happen for an hour or two. And the setup I had then, now I have a 22-inch parabolic microphone that hooks into a recorder. Back then, I had a Sony Handycam that had night vision on it, but I basically used it as the recording device. So I didn't expect to pick anything up visually, but I had this thing set to where it would pick up whatever, because it's great. It's got a great how it picks up the environment. And basically, we had the ones when we first went into the area that night, there was one howl we recorded, and then nothing else happened. And then we proceeded to go to the graveyard, and we were there probably 45 minutes. Nothing was happening, almost left. Then we heard whistles, and then we could hear something approaching, at different sides. And then they just went off. And the coyotes went off with them. So there's two separate things going off here, but you can tell there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in the background, but you can tell the coyotes from this thing, because the coyotes are a higher pitch and they always go back to the yippee kind of dog sound. And this thing is just howling, and the duration is just way longer. And unfortunately, we had never experienced anything like that. So we're gabbing at the same time, kind of ruining things, And but all hell broke loose at that graveyard.
How far away do you think the vocalizations were?
Wow, that's tough because of things echo and stuff. But they at that location, They're within 100 yards, but probably a lot closer than that,
Oh, wow.
just based on the terrain.
Okay. So fairly close then.
Yep.
And you guys believe that there were more than one. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. That became apparent um, as we went on. We kind of weren't even thinking about that early on. It was just, wow, did you hear that? Wow. I hope the recorder's picking that up, and kind of like that. And then everything stopped at the graveyard, just like somebody threw a switch. And we waited probably maybe another 45 minutes, nothing. We pack up and go. And then here comes the cat. Get down. You got to get down. We stop at a place we call the bridge. There's a little metal bridge there. At this, David Ellis, it took a few years for us to meet him through Julie Wrench of Monster X Radio. He's analyzed these recordings. Now, he said he can't say they're Bigfoot because Bigfoot's not certified. But what he can say is we recorded no known animal in North America, and that some of the screams, howls, whatever you want to call them, pegged higher than a baboon on a spectrograph, and that's evidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And at the bridge is where we recorded that first one that hit that high, and it was way closer. This thing, when it went off, I mean, it was furious. You can kind of feel that. And then the coyotes were going off with it. David took that recording, he subdued the coyotes, and he looped that. And that thing, I mean, it's like a train siren going off. That thing and it's within 50 yards or less, probably 30.
Yeah, you sent me the recording maybe a month or so ago, and I took a listen, and it's going off. There's no doubt. You can hear the coyotes yip, but you can hear this, and it's just a constant, and it just goes up, like you said.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a shark remora relationship with these two creatures. They scavenge off each other or something, but there's something going on because a lot of times you've got both of them at the scene of the crime to say,
Was that your first encounter of any kind?
No, at East Fork, the first night hike I had went on, we had the rocks thrown, and that really rattled me because I wasn't expecting that. And but that night in Adams County, that was the first night I've ever heard vocalizations with my own ears live on at the scene. I had listened to the Ohio Howl and other things that I would find on the internet, but that time, I heard them with my own ears, which is different. I mean, that is just, you don't forget that.
Yeah. I imagine so. Let me ask you this. You guys do some investigations. I know we've talked about that. How often, kind of transition into, I guess, the Ohio Night Stalkers, how often do you guys go somewhere or do any investigations? And do you have any coming up anytime soon?
This is going to sound like a stupid or a generic answer. We get out as much as we can. The work gets in the way a lot. That's going to end soon, though, because I'm retiring next year early.
Okay.
But we get out as much as we can. We kind of start in spring, depending on what the weather's doing, and go through like October into November, and then kind of call it. Don't really want to get out at night, in December and, when it's cold. But so we don't really have nothing going on to probably the spring.
Gotcha. Okay. You had sent me, well, let me ask you this. We talked earlier about a Memorial Day investigation that you had or expedition, and you guys had some activity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago on Memorial Day.
2 years ago. Okay. I'm going to play this recording you sent me, and then just tell us, a little bit about what went on that evening.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's not the first thing it howls. It's the one that comes in the middle there. That's Big Daddy.
Okay. All right. Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Sorry, that was later that night. That wasn't the one I was thinking, the Angry Giant one. That was that night, a little bit later. But what's fascinating about that one is you can hear the tone change of the howl. That ooh, the change, and got to be almost sounding out vowel sounds. You got to be a primate to do that. That's not a coyote doing that.
Right. That it definitely had some pitch changes, and it's something that had some lungs or some strength behind the noise, no doubt.
Yeah, that's a new area we were allowed to go into, privately owned. I don't know, 40, 50 acres. There's nothing back there. It's kind of like, that old show, The Land Time for God. It's kind of like that for real. Because when you go back in there, it's like, wow, you just get this feeling like, hey, I'm not in Kansas anymore kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that evening, you guys recorded more than one vocalization, right? Yeah, I believe I don't know which one that one is. I have on my phone
I,
now, but
I sent you so many things. I don't know. I'd have to hear them.
yeah, yeah. But that was an excellent recording. What type of equipment was that you used to record that with?
And now I have a 22-inch parabolic microphone from Wildtronics, and I basically have it hooked into a basic, like a voice recorder. And I point it the direction I think will be lucky and cross my fingers and pray that, the
Right.
voices come from that direction. But it being a pretty good sized dish, it pulls sound in. And that's what we use. And then I'll go through that after we investigate. And here comes the cat again. Up here or something. And um, if I find something, I'll record it from the recorder onto my phone, and then I will send it to David Ellis and let him analyze to make sure it's not, an owl or something, and he'll pinpoint it and clean it up and send it back to me.
Right. Yeah, we had, I think I may have told you, we had a recording on some family land about a tenth of a mile from where we live. And we sent it to R. Scott Nelson, verify or just to see what it was. And it was no known forest creature. And it sounded like two individuals as well. And so it's neat to get something analyzed and then get the results back, and that you've got something that's not a lot of people have.
Well, Dr. Belgram, we lost him, and he was an expert on the tracks and everything. And I like tracks. I found a few, but I don't really want to lug the stuff around to try to cast them. Other people do that. The sounds, the audio is what excites me, because a track, you could find a track, it could be a day old, a week old, a month old, a year old. Audio happened that night. If something screams or howls, it happened that night we were there, and we can relive that, listen to it, send it off, have it analyzed, and that's, a lot of people haven't. There's some audio out there, but not a lot, and just kind of, I don't know, that's kind of what excites me, I guess.
Yeah.
Get that.
No.
How that sounds, you don't forget that.
No, I've played that recording that he got on our land or on our family land. I don't know how many times. It's just, it blows my mind, and I wish I could have heard it firsthand. I did not, but you could tell he was, the emotions in his face, in his eyes when he was telling me about it. It was something that was real. So let me transition into one more thing, Mike. And I was just going to ask you this, and I've always been curious. Salt Fork State Park. It's known for Bigfoot. Okay. Have you ever done any investigations there or had any activity?
Have been there. Had some activity. We used to go to the OBC all the time. Haven't went in probably about 8 or 9 years, but there's Bigfoot in there. There's some unofficial reports where they closed the park for periods of time because of Bigfoot activity. One of the park rangers fell asleep in his truck and woke up, and the thing was looking in the window, and he punched his window thinking it was a bear and cracked the window, hurt his hand. That's another legend. What happened to Salt Fork, it's a beautiful area, is, they went on Monster Quest with the episode about Salt Fork, and they not only named the park, they named the areas in the park where stuff happens. And there's an area in that park named Bigfoot Ridge, and they got that name for a reason. Things happen. But what happened with that's great and everything, but everybody and their mom kind of flocks in there, especially on the weekend. So it's a hard place to research unless you can get into some, other spots people don't go to because they're harder to get in. But you've got so many people in there, you're kind of, you could be recording them, you know. And so we haven't went there in a long time, just kind of because of that. It's just like too many people's in there. But I mean, it's a beautiful area, and there's definitely stuff in there.
Right. Yeah, that's a bucket list for me to go there, at least see the park or sign
Oh, it's a
or
beautiful park. It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
yep, yep. Well, Mike, at the end of each episode, I do a rapid fire Q&A where I'll ask 3 questions, and it's just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Am I allowed to plead the fifth or not?
No, you cannot plead the fifth. No, I'm just kidding. It's
Okay.
casual, so try to have some fun with it. All right, you ready? All right. Favorite name for Bigfoot other than Bigfoot?
Oma
Oh my, okay.
or Skookum maybe. I like Skookum also.
Skookum. Yeah, that's Native American.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
All
both
their
of them.
names sound a lot better.
What do you think about the Grassman?
Grassman,
Because
I
it
think originated from northern Ohio. It's because of some of the shelters they found that were built with like tree limbs and that really tall, high grass. Not the kind of grass you grow in your front yard, but that tall grass. And they use that to make like shelters. That's where that name kind of came from.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Number 2, favorite Christmas movie.
Well, that's a tough one. I could do Christmas song easier. Christmas movie. I'm just going to say Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, we've been. My wife likes to binge Elf and The Home Alones.
Yeah.
So we've already seen these probably a handful of times each.
I'll just add this to that. My favorite Christmas song, "Oh Holy Night."
Okay, awesome. Good one. I love that song. Number 3, if you had one place to do a Bigfoot expedition, where would you do it?
Wow. That's tough because, Washington State's beautiful. Oregon is beautiful. I was there in June. Um, Man, I'd love to go and recreate the, where Bob and Roger went back into, Bluff Creek. We drove to the sign, but they went as far as they could in their vehicle. The truck stopped and then set up camp there, and then would ride out, 4 or 5 miles to the north and come back the next day. They go to the east or whatever. That's how they did that. But I think it would be neat to kind of recreate that, and relive that.
That would be absolutely awesome to do that. Yeah.
I
Yes.
do that, not even Bigfoot. I just would love to go and see the terrain and how beautiful everything is.
Yes. I think they were out there maybe 2 weeks in
Yes,
Bluff Creek. Gosh, it was so nice out there.
I loved it. I drove out there. I didn't fly, and I loved it. I want to go.
Wow.
I hope to go back.
Yeah, which way did you go? Did you go through Wyoming on the way back, or did you go through Denver?
I went through Wyoming on the way back. On the way there, I didn't want to cruise up through Chicago, so I went up. Then I went up and I kind of clipped through Wisconsin, Minnesota, and I stopped the first night in Fargo, North Dakota, because I wanted to go across Montana and all that. And then coming back, I went a different way, and I clipped through part of Utah, and then went through Wyoming and all that.
Okay. Yeah, we flew to Portland, and then spent a day driving just to the coast, which was beautiful. And then after the festival, we left that afternoon and drove. We did, I think, the same route, actually. We went through Utah, Wyoming, and went into Denver, and then flew back from Denver.
Okay.
Really, really neat drive. And like I said, it's just, something I've never seen, and my wife either. So it was a beautiful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Crater Lake. I would love to spend more time there.
Yeah.
I had seen shows about it, nature shows about Crater Lake, but I wouldn't seen it, and it's
I would like to see that if we ever went back.
it's amazing. It's the deepest body of water in North America. It's 700 feet deeper in Lake Superior.
I did not know that.
It's unbelievable. It's a volcano, caldera volcano, that exploded and then collapsed in on itself.
Okay.
And you could see the rim of the crater on the other side, and the water is bluer than blue. It's just freaking, it looks unnatural. Because I'm used to Ohio, where most of our water most of the time looks like toilet water, I'm sorry to say, because of runoff and everything else. But, out there, the water is either blue or it's clear. And I'm just like, oh my God, this place looks like, heaven,
Right. Yeah,
I've
seen
seen pictures.
Out there. Yeah, it's beautiful. The coast was unbelievable, and then we drove into Northern California and saw some of the redwoods.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was just so neat. Yeah, beautiful scene.
How in the world those things don't topple over as tall as they are? That's crazy.
I have no idea. They're massive.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to maybe do a part 2 down the road sometime.
Let's do that. And
Yes.
that's a side thing about Bigfooting. I work at UPS and I get ribbed a lot on the Bigfoot stuff, but because of Bigfoot, I got to go see the Pacific Northwest and see Washington State, Oregon, Northern California. That probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Bigfoot. So I've seen a lot of beautiful things, because of that. So it's definitely worth it, whether nothing ever happens again or not. It's just it's a no lose situation for me as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you 100%. No doubt. Mike, if you can, tell the listeners where they can find you on social media and keep up with what you guys are doing with the Ohio Night Stalkers.
Yes, we have a Facebook page, Ohio Night Stalkers. On Facebook, we post, what we're doing, and if I'm speaking at a library or a conference, it'll be posted on there. But you can keep up with us, or if you got a question or you want to share a sighting or your own feelings on things, look us up there. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put a link in the description, and that way the listeners can find you and keep up with what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
For our listeners, if you've had an encounter or an experience or something unexplained, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening, and God bless.
God bless.